So we're going to look at creating a new project in Intelli IDEA, and this is with the new UI on. There are two different types of UI you can have in Intelli. This one is for the new one. So we'll be presented with a window that looks a little bit like this. You might not have any projects in the list at all, however, but we're going to choose the new project option. That will bring us a prompt that looks a little like this. Typically, when we create a new project in IntelliJ or any new project for the first time of learning a programming language, we often just print out the words "Hello World." So I'm going to name my project "Hello World." We typically don't want any spaces in our project name, so we capitalize each new, the first letter of each new word. Choose where you want to save it. It might prompt you to create a folder called Idea Projects inside your documents. I currently have got this on the desktop. At this stage, you don't need to create a Git repository, but that is something you might want to do later on, but we'll uncheck that for now. We want to make sure the language selected is Java, and that we're using, it doesn't actually matter again which build system we use, but we'll stick with IntelliJ IDEA for now. If there is no JDK available to you, you'll need to choose an option, should appear here, that says to download a JDK. I would recommend the Open JDK version 17. It's got long-term support, version 17 does, although a later version won't really cause you any problems either. So I'm going to use Open JDK 17. And it's going to give me the option to add some sample code, so I'm going to use that checked. We shouldn't need to fiddle around with any of the advanced settings, however. And I'm going to click Create. And again, just dragging this across to my other screen. This is what you will see in IntelliJ IDEA. Has got a couple of different windows open, one telling us how the new UI appears. We can close that with the little hide bar here. It might take a little while before the option to actually run our program appears. If it says towards the bottom right of the screen indexing, we need to wait for that process to finish before we can compile, build and run our program. The other thing to note here is you can see it's got line numbers down the left hand side, and it currently goes 1, 2, 5, and that's because where there's no additional content, IntelliJ will actually collapse lines of code. So if you click where there's a green sort of a background, you'll see it will show all the lines of code split out rather than condensing it onto one. And we can actually see the code that it's given us here. We'll talk a bit more about this in a later video, but this is the code that's going to execute, that's going to actually print out the message "Hello World." So we can now run our code. We can either click the run button here, or we can click on one of these run buttons here. So I'll use the one at the top. And you can see it's building, tells you at the bottom, and once it starts, it will show us an output window at the bottom, and we can see here it's printed out "Hello World."